I was recently reminded of my own mortality through the mortality of others around me on my birthday and a few days following it. I had two conversations with two different people that impacted the trajectory of my life and what I prioritize and what I currently consider important. Because of these two conversations, which happened in quick succession of one another, I have a different outlook on the current state of my life because I was reminded just how quickly this shit could end. My apologies yet again for only making this an audio experience because I'm still over here in the dark ages with no camera. Please accept my sincerest apologies. Anyway, so the first conversation that I had was actually on my birthday about a month or so ago. I was contacted by an old friend, and we used to date back in the day. I would say like our dating relationship was kind of an odd one in a sense that it was a confirmed situationship that was confirmed by both people on both sides of the coin. And looking back on the situation, maybe there was a little bit more confirmation on my side than on her side. But she was particularly busy within her life as well. She was in med school doing med school shit. I was living the corporate life, but we made sure that when we linked up together, we cared for each other, listened to each other's problems, and, just experienced life together. It ended, let's say, about 3 or 4 years into the situationship or whatever it was, you know what I'm saying? But, we still keep in somewhat close contact. I would say once every year and a half or something like that. One pings the other and vice versa. Anyway, she contacted me on my birthday. And we began to have, our typical year and a half kind of conversation, catching up with one another. And she shared with me something that she was experiencing that started a little bit before COVID did. She told me that she has been bedridden for the last year and some change because she developed an autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis. Now, when she said rheumatoid arthritis, I was thinking to myself, oh, you have a little bit of inflammation in your joints, so you can't get up. No, rheumatoid arthritis is a whole different beast. It's a whole different animal, and the way that it debilitates and attacks your system can leave you permanently disabled. Now, the young lady that I knew back in my mid-20s was vibrant. She was the one that was always convincing me to step outside of my current comfort zone to go experience the world. She enjoyed hiking, she enjoyed skiing, she enjoyed wakeboarding, all of the activities that one can experience within this planet in order to call it a sufficient experience on this planet. Hearing her detail exactly what it is that she was going through and being bedridden, the amount of weight that she had gained because she could no longer go outside and exercise, the cane that she now uses to walk, the inability to work in her current place of business of being a doctor, which she studied 13 years for in order to be able to do. All of the passion, all of the life stripped out from under her, from an autoimmune disease that developed with no warning at all. I was simply floored by this revelation that she shared with me, and honestly, I really didn't know what to say. So we mulled over it for a little while. We kind of laughed and joked about different things within our life, and then after a while, I hung up the phone, and then I sat to myself and I thought, damn, she was always such a bright light and awesome spirit within my life and the life of her friends around her. She didn't do anything to deserve this. Nothing. And it reminded me that through her mortality, the things that she explained, that this could have been me, or this could have been you. I eventually contacted her back later that next day after I had some time to think about it, and I told her that if she ever wanted a shoulder to cry on, that if she ever just wanted to call to just talk about her situation, that she absolutely could. She never texted me back. She's a tough cookie. The second conversation that I had was with an old gym partner of mine, actually. And This is about a couple of days later. I was sitting out on my front porch, is what I normally do when I like to relax and have a good time. A young man walked by me and he looked me in the eye and he said, "Huh? MTR?" He actually said my real name. He looked me up and down. He said, "Huh?" He said, "Man, I missed you so much." I looked at him up and down as I sat in my chair. I had no idea who he was at all. I was confused and befuddled, to say the least, but I'm getting kind of used to people that I don't recognize me and say what's up. So I walked through the paces and the motions of dapping up this stranger. Dapped him up, gave him a dap hug, which is ill-advised in this post-COVID environment, but I still did it. Took a step back, looked at him, had a young lady beside him, looked at her, didn't recognize her, still didn't recognize him, but then he started talking about past experiences together. And I'm looking at him, and I said, "Logan?" It was Logan. Logan was completely bald. Completely. Not a hair on the top of his head. Eyebrows were barely visible. A beard, a mustache, remnants. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was confused, and immediately after realizing that this might be Logan, my heart sank. Logan and I originally met about 4 or 5 years ago through a mutual friend. Quickly, the topic of working out in the gym came up, and I said, "Man, I go work out downstairs in the corporate offices. Why don't you just come and join me one of these days?" And he did. And then we instantly clicked, instantly became gym partners. During the time that I worked out with Logan, I was the absolute strongest that I've ever been. And I'm sure he would say the same. We worked extremely well together. About 4 years in, he asked to go to lunch with me, and he sat me down and he said, "Man, you won't believe what just happened." I said, "What?" He said, "I got a girl pregnant." I said, "I didn't even know you was dating." He said, "Man, I don't really know what to do, but I know the things that I can do in order to make this right." And I said, "Well, what is that?" He said, "I gotta move in with her. Gotta move in. Gotta step up. I gotta be a man." I was completely floored by his immediate need to fulfill an obligation to the seed that was going to be born. And of course, I came with him with the usual, "How do you know if it's yours? Are you sure about this?" And everything in between, to say the least. And he stood on his principles, he stood on his morals, he stood in his conviction. And at the end of the day, if a man chooses to do that, you can do nothing but support and respect him. So by him doing that, he had less time in his life, and he no longer had the opportunities to work at the same place. So obviously we couldn't be gym partners anymore. Then COVID happened, and then we gradually fell out of touch. As with most things happen, life happened. Seeing him in this state, completely bald and not understanding why that was, but having an inclination as to why that was, my heart immediately slipped. Soon thereafter, he confirmed that he had been going through cancer treatments for his lymphoma. He also shared with me that within the past year, his father, that he was very close with, had died. Completely unfortunate experiences. One of the questions that I asked him is, "How have you had so many unfortunate experiences in such a short time, and what are you doing to maintain your mental capacity?" And he looked at me and a tear dropped from his eyes, and he had nothing to say. He just said, "Man, I'm just doing it. I gotta be here. I gotta be strong. I have a newborn. And although my world around me is crumbling, I just must man up." I didn't know what to say. Yet again, me, the man with so many words and so many different circumstances about so many different things. I had nothing to say, but just respect the way that he came across. The sheer honor and perseverance in the way that he said it with his convictions meant to me that he was going to be okay. But I was still curious regarding his prognosis, and thankfully he said that he was on his last chemo treatment, that his prognosis was particularly well, and after the last treatment, everything should slowly start to get better. We ended off the conversation with a, "Hey, when are you gonna invite me over? I haven't seen the house or the baby yet." He said, "Man, say less. We'll set up a date." The reason why I wanted to share these two stories with you guys here today is, again, off of the strength of the idea that your mortality is not promised. Tomorrow is not a given. What are you doing today to ensure that you are the best versions of yourself today? And as I say all of this, I'm also projecting, because I know that I particularly have an issue with taking a look at the current successes and truly saying that you were successful in doing this. I have a constant fear of failure. It mires my life, and I understand that it does. It's one of the many flaws that I have, but I usually don't talk about publicly. The positive side is that it continues to promote growth and development. The negative side is that I sit with anxiety within that constantly looms in front of me and in back of me and on all sides of me. It is what it is, though. There could be way worse things that I could be afflicted with, but the importance of embracing the now is incredibly important. You have to do that. You have to be balanced within your life. You cannot be constantly progressing forward without a strong appreciation for the now, because it could all end before you want it to.